The night they took my husband, something inside me shattered. But in its place, something cold and hard and sharp took root. His name was Leo, and he was a forensic accountant, a magician with numbers. He saw patterns others missed, and he stumbled upon the digital fortress of a man named Marcus Thorne, a crime boss, who wore the disguise of a legitimate businessman. Leo had mapped out Thorne's entire empire. The shell companies, the laundered money, the offshore accounts. He was going to bring him down, but Thorne's men got to him first. They left him in a way that was meant to be a message, brutal, final, and they thought that was the end of it. They thought his grieving widow would crumble. They were wrong. My name is Elena, and this is the story of how I dismantled Marcus Thorne's world from the inside out. The police were useless. "We're investigating," they'd say, their eyes full of pity and dismissal. They saw a heartbroken woman, fragile and lost. And that's exactly what I needed them to see. It's what I needed Thorne to see. I started by attending every high society charity event I knew he'd be at. I'd make sure our paths crossed. I look lost, my eyes red-rimmed from crying. I'd drop a glass. I'd stumble. I made myself look like a wreck, a woman drowning in grief. It took 3 months, but finally he took the bait. He approached me one evening, his voice dripping with fake sympathy. "Mrs. Vance," he said, "I was so sorry to hear about your husband." I looked up at him, my eyes wide and watery. "Thank you, Mr. Thorne. I just don't know what to do." Leo handled everything, the finances, the investments. I'm completely lost. It was the perfect lie. Leo had taught me everything he knew. I could read a balance sheet like a novel. Thorne, seeing an opportunity, offered me a job. A simple administrative role in one of his legitimate front companies. He thought he was being clever, keeping the widow of the man he killed close. He thought I was a trophy, a symbol of his power. He had no idea he'd just invited the Trojan horse through his gates. I started at the bottom, making coffee, filing paperwork. I was invisible, and invisibility was my superpower. I learned the rhythms of the office, the names, the faces, the hierarchies. I listened. Oh, how I listened. I heard the whispers about special deliveries and private client meetings. Thorne's right-hand man was a brute named Kale. He was loyal but not very bright. His password was his dog's name and birthday. It took me 2 weeks to get it. With Kale's login, I had my first key. I started small, late at night when the office was empty. I didn't steal money. I didn't erase files. I just nudged things. My first target was their logistics. Thorne had a fleet of trucks moving illicit goods disguised as produce. I found the shipping manifests. Leo had shown me how these systems worked. A single misplaced digit, a 1-minute change in a departure time could cause chaos. I tweaked a delivery schedule by just 12 hours. A multi-million-dollar shipment of electronics, meant for a discreet buyer, ended up sitting on a hot tarmac in Arizona for a full day, frying every microchip. It was a huge loss. Thorne was furious, but it was written off as a simple logistical error. No one suspected a thing. Next, I went after his people. I learned that Thorne kept his lieutenants in line with a mix of fear and reward, but their loyalty was only as deep as their greed. I discovered that Kale was skimming a little off the top from protection rackets. Thorne probably knew, but allowed it as a cost of business. Using an anonymous email and a burner phone, I sent an encrypted tip to Thorne's main rival, a man named Dimitri. The tip detailed the exact time and place of Kale's next collection. Dimitri's crew showed up instead of Kale's. A firefight ensued. No one was killed, but the message was clear. Thorne's territory was vulnerable. The seed of mistrust was planted. Thorne couldn't prove Kale was incompetent, but he started watching him. The pressure mounted. Then there was Isabella, Thorne's financial manager. She was sharp, ambitious, and utterly terrified of him. I saw how he belittled her in meetings. I knew she was my entry point to his core finances. I didn't approach her with threats. I approached her with empathy. One evening, I accidentally ran into her as she was leaving, looking stressed. I told her a story about how Leo used to get overwhelmed with complex accounts and how he'd use a specific cross-referencing method to simplify them. It was a real technique Leo had taught me, a brilliant way to spot irregularities. I wasn't telling her to betray Thorne. I was just giving her a tool to do her job better. I was being helpful, malicious compliance. 2 weeks later, Isabella found it, a hidden account. A slush fund Thorne kept, not just from the government, but from his own people. A fund he used to pay off his most secret, most dangerous contacts and to fund his escape plan if things ever went south. The existence of this fund meant Thorne didn't trust anyone, not even her. Her loyalty, already thin, evaporated. She didn't come to me. She didn't need to. She just started making copies. Digital copies of everything. And she left a backdoor open for me in the system. A backdoor that led directly to Marcus Thorne's heart. The final act was a symphony of chaos, all conducted from my quiet little desk. Using the access Isabella gave me, I started moving fractions of cents from thousands of transactions. It's an old trick, but I gave it a twist. I didn't funnel the money to myself. I funneled it into the accounts of Thorne's own lieutenants, including Kale. Tiny, untraceable amounts that, over weeks, grew into suspicious sums. Then I anonymously tipped off the IRS, not about the whole operation, but specifically about those individuals. Audits started. Panic set in. His inner circle thought Thorne was setting them up to take a fall. They started turning on each other, whispering to rivals, trying to cut their own deals. His foundation of fear was crumbling into a paranoid mess. For the grand finale, I used Thorne's secret slush fund. Leo had always said that the biggest criminals have the biggest egos. Thorne's offshore account was in a non-extradition country, his golden parachute. With my access, I didn't steal the money. That would be too simple. Instead, I initiated a transfer of the entire fund, millions of dollars, not to me, but as a charitable donation to an international anti-crime syndicate. The kind of organization that specializes in hunting men like him. I made sure the transfer was flagged, triggering every international banking alarm. And I timed it to go through at the exact moment I anonymously sent the full, unredacted files Leo had originally compiled, now updated with everything I had gathered to a dozen federal agencies and 3 major news outlets. That morning, I went to work as usual. I made the coffee. I smiled my sad, gentle smile. By 10 a.m., the first news alerts hit. By 11 a.m., FBI agents were swarming the building. I watched from my desk as they dragged a stunned Marcus Thorne out in handcuffs. His face was a mask of disbelief. As they passed me, his eyes met mine. And for the first time, he saw me, really saw me. The fog of the grieving widow was gone, and in its place was the cold, clear fire of a promise fulfilled. I didn't say a word. I just gave a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. In that moment, he knew. He knew it was all me. He knew the ghost of the man he'd murdered had reached out from the grave, through my hands, and pulled his entire world down with him. They thought they had buried Leo, but they didn't realize they had planted a seed. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of justice and karma. See you next time.